Welcome to The Real Recipe, the podcast that brings you the perfect blend of real estate trends and topics, where we serve up fresh insights and sizzling strategies. So let's get cooking. Back for another episode. Today we're going to talk about...
Not breaking the table.
Not breaking the table. That's important. That's important. We're going to talk about a very commonly used acronym in the
I think that's the word.
I think that's right. I think that's right.
I think that's the word.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
BRRRR.
Oh, Jesus. God.
Why?
He's such a dad.
Oh, yeah. I'm always up for a good dad joke.
The BRRRR Method. Everyone talks about it.
Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat.
Yeah. It's a good method.
It is a good method. It never fails to work. It never fails to work.
I feel
and
like
if you're buying the properties correctly, and you're investing in the right locations and getting the right price on a property, you'll get into an investment that pays off for years.
Yeah, and I think some of the most successful real estate entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call them, they live and die by this. Like, it just
pretty
works.
Much. Yeah,
it
pretty
works.
much.
Even your first time investors are like, we're gonna do the BRRRR method on this, and then I just had this conversation with the client. They're like, hey, want to buy a family member's house, and think about doing the BRRRR method on this house and starting from scratch with this particular property. We're lucky enough to have this property and do it, not have to go and find a property. And then you use it as your own bank. It's basically that property becomes your own bank.
Yeah. So let's talk about a scenario, what it looks like. What kind of break down each piece of it, what it looks like. What the results typically look like, and then again repeat. So buying. It's obviously important, and it goes without saying that you need to be buying smartly or buying properties right. Make sure that you are not overpaying for a particular property that you're looking to buy, whether it's residential, commercial, etc. But buying a property smartly is hugely important. Make sure you do your due diligence.
You want to do your due diligence. I
think
that's what he's trying to say.
I always get stuck on that one.
It's a tongue twister. Do your due diligence.
Yeah, make sure you're doing your research.
Yeah, but that's important for whether you're doing the BRRRR method or you're just buying your first house.
Yeah, just in general,
or
right?
your first commercial property.
Makes sense. And there's a bunch of resources out there that you can utilize to make sure that you've got all the information when you're buying a property, making sure you're doing inspections, making sure you know what your costs are going to be. And if you're buying the property correctly, you're going to go in, and you're obviously then going to go to the next phase, which is rehab, right? And you're going to update everything. You're going to update, whether it just be a quick cosmetic upgrade, or maybe it's a full gut, and you're having to redo everything, redo mechanicals, redo all your maybe some structural work, maybe then do your fit and finish, your trim and everything.
I think let's just work off an example, and I think our condo flip could be a good example, right? You get an off-market property for below value.
Well, we didn't rent it, but
no. I understand that, but I'm saying we can use that in terms of we know the numbers and whatnot. We don't need to be very direct about the numbers, but we got it below market, put money into it.
Yeah.
Had we kept it, refied out, paid off the hard money loan, had money to now take out and go buy the next property, right?
Exactly. I'll give you a good example. So you go in, what you're starting to see now is some sellers are starting to get, at least not so much here in New Jersey or in the Northeast, but in other parts of the country, you're starting to see investors or sellers who are getting a little bit more desperate and need to sell. And so you're starting to find some better opportunities to purchase a property at the right price. You go in and you buy the property. You go in and rehab it. So let's say you buy a house for $280,000. Maybe you put in, I don't know, maybe $80,000 worth of work. So your all-in cost is $360,000. Maybe it takes you 6 months, maybe not even 4 months to do the rehab. It's a smaller house, so you could probably get away with 4 months on doing a rehab. Then you turn around, and then the next phase of that is you go in and you rent it out. Obviously, if you've done some upgrades to the home, it should be pretty easy to rent out, depending on your location, et cetera. But you get it rented out. And then typically after a year of ownership, you're going to go in and you're going to go refinance. And the reason why you want to wait a year is because you can go in and then take cash out at that point. Some of the rules that we have from a lending perspective require you to at least own the property for 1 year before you can use the new as repaired value and then take cash out from the property. So after a year, you go in and you do a refinance, and let's say that house that you paid $280 for, maybe it's worth $400, or maybe it's worth $450, right? So now maybe you can go in and maybe borrow $325 or $350, depending on the scenario. Depending on the rent roll, obviously is going to be key in that scenario too. But now you go in and you recoup 50, in some cases even 100% of your rehab, plus the original purchase price. So now you've basically, after a year, owned your property for no money out of pocket. Yeah, you had to put up the money, and there's a cost to doing that, but closing costs, et cetera. But
anticipated.
But essentially, you've now taken all your money back out of the property. If you've done your research correctly and you've done the math, you should be cash flowing on the property, even if it's just a little bit. You've got all your money back, and you take that property, tuck it in the drawer.
Depending on how you financed the deal in the first place.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
yeah, maybe you pay cash for it. Maybe you financed it.
So let's say I came to you, did a rental loan, right?
Yeah.
Bought it, and we did the rental. Now I'm a year in, and I refi. All right, so I'm $360, and you said, right?
Yep.
It's worth $450.
Yep.
But now how much can I take out?
So $450,
and it cash flows.
I mean, you can go up to 80% leverage,
which I might want to do because I want to pay my rental loan back and walk away with some cash to put on, towards the next deal.
Yeah, I mean,
especially if I cash
if you're
flow,
doing a rental loan, most rental loans nowadays, if you have some experience, you can put 10 or 15% down. 10% down is really tough, but it can be done. But let's say you're putting 15% down, so you paid $280 for it. You're in for probably $50,000, $45,000 for down payment. So let's say you owe $235 on it, right? And then you're $235. You pull out all your construction. Let's say you put 80 into it, so you're into it you do a loan for $315, $320, $330.
Yep.
There you go, done.
Yeah.
Pull all your money back out of it.
Right.
And
just so people understand, like when you say you're getting all your money back, well, it depends. Are you financing it, or are you coming with all cash to do the deal?
Obviously if you're getting cash, but
so
but even if you're getting cash, even if you're paying cash, and some investors do that. They'll buy properties for cash because they feel like it's easier to do that.
Yeah.
They'll save themselves the closing costs of borrowing the money. Totally respect that too. As a lender, I can get you the money, and I can, use other people's money, but
right. That's another
whole conversation.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you pay cash for the property. You pull out a certain amount as long as the property cash flows and can support the mortgage. Pull all your money back out, and then
do it again. Rinse and repeat.
Rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
So it is a tried and true method, and that's why it's been a staple in the real estate investing industry for so long, because it does work.
Right.
The only component of it, again, that we started off with that I would caution everybody with is just make sure you're buying the properties correctly, doing the proper due diligence on everything. Make sure you're researching the area, make sure you're getting a good property in a good location.
Especially if you're renting, right? You want to make sure that it will cash flow.
Yeah, and you can find deals out there.
Yeah.
They're harder to come by nowadays. However, if you're willing to not be so restricted, location-wise, like, John and I were actually sitting with somebody yesterday, and they wanted to just be in a very specific location,
like three specific towns.
Yeah, and the conversation was like, well, okay, so you're kind of not really into doing it. You want to do it, but you're not really into doing it.
You want to be in the three hottest towns in New Jersey right
now. But that individual loves that area, loves to be in that area, and will pay up a little bit for that area because he wanted to be in that area and loved it. So I can appreciate that too. But the deals, when you're so focused on just a small area, the deals are a lot fewer and farther in between, and becomes difficult to do it.
In his specific case, though, it was more about proximity and quality. which I can respect and appreciate that. Because,
there's definitely that too, right?
There's when you're someone who's owned a few doors in your life, a handful of doors or more, and you're like, I don't want to, all right, I live in X town and I got to travel 25 minutes to get to that property and 25 minutes to get to that property. And it's like, I'm done. We said yesterday, you see those guys who own 30 doors and they're self-managing and they get to that point where it's like, all right, I'm just going to liquidate everything and I don't know. I just don't want to do this anymore, right? Yeah. And then that's where you find those deals because these guys just want to get rid of them.
So the BRRRR method really works when you're buying smartly. It doesn't matter whether you're sticking to just a few towns, whether you're working on a regional basis, whether you're doing things across the country. Yeah, but it really is important. It does work. It has been a tried and true method, like I've said. And
it works across residential and commercial.
Yeah, commercial. Believe it or not, now you're the BRRRR method in commercial. If you haven't thought about it or considered it, you should. The opportunities in commercial now, we're in 2024 now.
Yeah.
The opportunities that are going to present themselves in the coming years in commercial real estate will be life-changing for people. If you can buy the right properties, get them at the right price, do this. You could do a BRRRR in commercial.
You need more capital, but
they tend to be a little bit more expensive, but the opportunities there are there for sure and are coming for sure.
Yep.
But BRRRR does work. It doesn't matter whether it's residential, commercial. Again, it's all predicated on buying the property correctly and smartly.
Yeah.
And structuring your deal so that you can buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat.
Repeat and repeat.
Yeah.
And repeat and repeat. And then eventually
you get to a point where you're like, oh my God, I have so many proproperties. I need to get out of these things.
What do I do, right?
Can I just go buy a triple net and be done with this?
Which then leads you to a fantastic point you just made.
Yeah.
And that's something that we discuss all the time, which is, now you're someone who has, whether it's their single family, multifamilies, right? Now you have 5 to 10 properties under your belt in your portfolio.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now you're at a point over 2 years now you've owned them and have that rental income. And now you can start thinking about upgrading your class of property and say, you know what? Managing the residential properties has been great. I'm over it.
Yeah.
I want to buy a triple net Walgreens.
Yeah. That's a topic for that's
another topic.
That's another episode
but
for sure.
What this turns into is how investors use all these tools, use the BRRRR method, and end up into the 1031 exchange which is always something I'm discussing because now you've owned these properties for multiple years. You show cash flow for 2 years.
Yeah.
They're in all investment properties. And as long as you time it out right, you do want to go buy 1 or 2 standalone Walgreens that are triple net cash flow, which means no cost to the landlord whatsoever on a monthly basis. You could sell all 10 of your properties, throw them all into a 1031 exchange and go buy that one property all cash and have good cash flow on a very passive basis and not have to go
for sure.
So and that's again a whole nother topic we could discuss, but this is how people use the BRRRR method.
Yeah, this is BRRRR is what gets you there.
Into other tools to start seriously increasing the class of property you end up with and your cash flow.
And you hear it. It's funny. You hear it all the time. You see it on television on a lot of these shows, and every time people walk into literally the ugliest house on the block, or it's got something dramatically wrong with it, that just smells like money. Whenever you see a house that's broken down, it just smells like money because you're going to be able to get it at a deal.
Yeah,
that's just again, that has never not been proven correct. People are not. People want to pay up for and buy brand new construction for an obvious reason, which is I don't have to do anything to it, but you're paying full retail for that property. You're never not going to get a deal, or you're never going to get a deal on that property the way you're going to get a deal on a property that the grass is 4 feet high, it stinks to all hell.
Yeah, but
there's holes in the walls, the windows are broken, and it looks like it needs to be.
But you might be talking about two different buyers, though. You're talking about us versus a first-time home buyer who's like,
yeah, but I mean, look, if you're looking to invest in real estate, you have to have that mindset of buying the property correctly. BRRRR really only works if you're buying the property, at the right price. If you're overpaying for a property, and you're putting a ton of work into it, which we've both seen too happen, where a lot of younger investors who are newer to the game, they get the FOMO aspect of it, and they just start putting in offers and buying properties, thinking that they
just have to get one.
That they're going to be the next star of HGTV's whatever show.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can appreciate you wanting to do all the design work and do all this fancy stuff to the house, but at the end of the day, it's an investment. You have to buy it right. You have to do the right rehab. You have to get it rented correctly. You can do all of that research up front before you actually, sign a check or close on a property, so you know what you're walking into.
Even before you
if you're going to do the BRRRR method, make sure you do your research up front, and that will save you time, energy, headaches, and potentially the loss of money.
Absolutely.
Done. That's BRRRR.
That's PRRR.
That's BRRRR.
That's cold, man. That's cold.
It wasn't. That's cold. All right. Until we meet again. Yes. Until we meet again.